Call Don now, 682-1270. News Talk 1270 KIML.
News Talk 1270 KIML, Don Carpenter Show. So welcome back to the program, and you heard it in the Fox News at the top of the hour, and I heard this story a couple days ago, and it's making national news now, so I figured I'd give it a little bit of time, and I didn't even know what to say when I first saw this story. And I was kind of flabbergasted, and I use that word a lot, but this one really did flabbergast me. I have no idea how this happened. Hundreds of protesters are expected to converge at the Billings, Montana County Courthouse Thursday, today, to express their outrage over what they call a lenient sentence for a man who admitted raping a 14-year-old girl. The mother of the victim is outraged that a high school teacher who admitted raping her daughter received only a month in prison, while her daughter later took her own life. As the calls for an appeal grow, the Montana Attorney General's office is reviewing the case. The judge, his name is Todd Baugh, B-A-U-G. So I think it's Baugh. He apologized yesterday. He said he made some references to the victim's age and control, and what he said was that she was older than her chronological age. And you know, if the guy was maybe 17 or 18 and she was 14, I could see giving a little bit of leniency. Okay, I'm not absolutely, against the judge having some, discretion. But this guy was a teacher, for one. This case began in 2008. The teen was a student at Billings Senior High, and Stacey Dean Rambold, the guy, he was a teacher. She was 14. He was 49. And the mother says that he, this teacher engaged in what she calls pre-sexual grooming, and grooming is what child predators do, especially. And what they do is they buy gifts and they're nice to them, take them to the movies, or just be nice to these kids, and it gets their confidence, and then they can do whatever they're doing. So later that year, authorities charged Rambold with 3 counts of sexual intercourse without consent. As the case wound its way through the legal system, the girl committed suicide. She was only a few weeks shy of her 17th birthday. So it took almost 3 years to get this through the legal system. The mother says that the relationship was to blame for her daughter's death. And, you can't really charge the guy with that. But so here's what happened after the girl committed suicide. The prosecution entered into what is known as a deferred prosecution agreement. So it's like a plea bargain type deal. And this meant that all charges against Rambold would be dismissed if he completed a sex offender treatment program and met other requirements, and one of those was to have no contact with children. Yeah, and as a result of this agreement, the guy admitted to one of the rape charges. So what happened after that? He didn't keep up his end of the agreement. He had some contacts with nieces and nephews in a family setting, and other adults were present. And he also had relationships with women, adult women, that he didn't tell his counselors about. And that was a violation of his deferred prosecution plan. So he was brought back into court in December of 2012. And then I guess they didn't get around to actually sentencing him until Monday. So prosecutors asked the judge to give him 20 years. The defense argued that Rambold had suffered enough. His lawyer said he lost his career and his marriage and has the scarlet letter of the internet due to the publicity surrounding the case. And he would be registered as a sex offender as well. So here's what happened. The judge sentenced the guy to 15 years in prison. Then he suspended all but 31 days of the sentence and gave him a credit for a day that he spent in jail before he bailed out. So basically the guy gets a month in jail for a rape. I'm not even sure why they allowed him to do the whatever this deferred, what do they call it, a deferred judgment or something like that. I'm not even sure why they would let somebody accused of rape do that in the first place. I mean, I understand that the victim wasn't around anymore, so I mean, you know, they couldn't get any testimony. But still, I mean. Everybody involved dropped the ball on this one. I mean, even the prosecuting attorney agreeing to some kind of deferred settlement thing, it just, everybody dropped the ball. The judge really dropped the ball, and I don't see how he gets out of this one. I don't see how the judge keeps his job. Let's go to the phones. News Talk 1270, KIML, you're on the air.
There's one problem we have with judgeships around here, and even I guess Montana, was that I think they need to be voted in and out. None of this you're put on there, and as long as you're still able to make a noise for the rest of your life, you have a position here. Yeah, stuff like that happened. The other part I'll play is the devil on this side. I happen to know of a personal case that happened when I was in high school. About a girl who thought a janitor was really cute, and she was quite promiscuous herself, but she went and had an affair with this guy, and it ended up that I guess somebody else found out about it, and then the school district sued, and you know, she tried to play victim, but she was one of the biggest hose bags that anybody ever seen around town.
Well, yeah, this stuff has been going on as long as there have been schools. I bet this kind of thing's been going on. And
well, you know, I can excuse the judge a little bit for what he says. I mean, my God, go out, go to Wally World there sometime and just, you know, stop and take a look at some people go through there. You got girls that are, you know, can't be more than 13, but they're dressed up like there's some hooker on K Street.
oh yeah, now see. I mean, if the judge had given the guy maybe 2 or 3 years in jail. I can see that, but 30 days is
that's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. I mean, I'm all for the judge having some kind of discretion, but 30 days is a little bit too much to the easy side. And I just looked it up. Judges in Montana are voted in, so even if he doesn't resign,
Montana have a way to get him out then.
Oh yeah, I mean, if he doesn't resign, he probably won't get reelected. That's for sure. But no, I think we might be losing you there. Yeah, I think we lost you there. But this isn't the first time this judge has made a decision like this, and I got another one for you when we come back. And the other one. It's not quite as bad as a rape case, but still pretty bad. And like I said, give the guy, you know, a couple years in jail, that would be fair. I mean, to me, as I have a teenage daughter, so I would say give the guy 20 years. But you know, I understand the judge has some discretion. You know, I mean, but 30 days, really? News Talk 1270, KIML, Don Carpenter Show. We'll see you in just a few minutes.
No crazy conspiracies. Just good local talk. Don Carpenter on News Talk 1270 KIML.
So if you're just joining us, we're talking about this judge in Billings that sentenced a 49-year-old guy. He raped a 14-year-old girl, and he was a teacher, and he sentenced this guy to 30 days in jail, a 15-year sentence, but all but 30 days of that is suspended. And don't ask me what a suspended sentence is. All I know is you don't go to jail. I guess it's like probation or something. So, yeah, 30-day sentence for rape. And the girl that he raped later killed herself, so she's not around to testify. And I assume that's why the original plea bargain was struck, where he wouldn't have to spend any time in jail. And let's go to the phones first before I tell you a little bit more about this judge. News Talk 1270 KIML, you're on the air.
Hi, I'm just kind of confused. The court knew that this guy did that, right?
Yeah, he admitted it.
Okay, so what's it matter if the girl's dead or not? Why don't they follow out with punishing him for what he's done?
Yeah, exactly. I only assume that the original plea bargain was struck because they didn't have the girl to testify. But once he admitted it and he didn't follow through with his treatment, they had every ability to sentence him to the full 20 years.
I mean, if it was up to me, he'd be spending 20 years in jail as somebody's girlfriend.
Well,
I mean, the girl's 14 and the guy's 49. There's some mind games that can be played there, and I don't care what that judge said. He was completely wrong in that. Oh, yeah. And he admits he's wrong now, but, I mean, I got another story for you here. This isn't the first time he let somebody off easy, so I think this is just one of those judges that just likes to let people off or something. Then you can't really try the guy for the same crime again, because that'd be double jeopardy, but I think that guy should still have to face his 20-year sentence.
Well, I guess technically, and I'm not an expert on the law, but I guess the prosecutor can appeal the sentence and maybe get some more time tacked on it. But who knows if the appeals court would overturn the original judge?
Well, let's hope they would, because it just seems like the right thing to do to me. Yeah.
I mean, even if it's not 20 years, even if it's only 5 years, that's better than 30 days.
Yeah, and he'll probably get credit for time already served, and so he's probably not even going to go to jail.
Well, yeah, it was the 31 days that he got, and he got credit for one that he served. So,
okay.
So he only had to spend a day in jail already. I mean, 1 day in jail.
That must be rough.
Yeah, it must be. I mean, I've known people that spent more time in jail than that for parking tickets.
Oh, I do too. So
yeah.
All right. Well, have a good day, Don.
Yep. Thanks a lot. The lines are lighting up on this one. News Talk 1270. You're on the air.
Morning, Don.
Good morning.
Man, this is a touchy subject with me. I have two daughters myself, 3 and 4 years old, and I've always been very protective of children, and I was raised like that down south. That's just common knowledge. Now, there's some facts that I'm not getting all straight on this case, and that is, if that judge wrote into his report that she was just as much in control of the situation as the man was. Now, I want to know more before I go saying this guy needs to do 25 years in jail. Now, he's a scumbag, there's no doubt about that, because he never should have been spending time alone with this girl in any way, shape, or form without her daddy around. But I want to know where her daddy was, where her mama was. Did they know that she was with this man? And I also want to know what kind of house she grew up in, because she may have seduced this man for all that we know, because we don't have all the facts. Now, if it comes out that he raped her, he forced her against her will, then I say, send him to the guillotine. Now, if it comes out that she pursued this man, it was kind of like that old police song, Don't Stand So Close to Me, then I think there's a different story behind it, and we really need to know all of the facts, Don. What do you think?
Well, and you make a good point that there is a difference between forcible rape and statutory rape. And, I mean, to me, it would be the difference between 20 years in prison and maybe 5 years. That to me, that would be, if she was the aggressor, and let's be honest, that kind of thing does happen. Now, legally, a 14-year-old can't consent, but if it's not forcible, I wouldn't lose any sleep if the guy only did 5 years or 5 or 10 or something like that. But if it was forcible rape, then life in prison for the guy.
Well, hey, I can even get stiffer penalty than that because I just can't handle. Jesus Christ told the guys, anybody offend one of these little ones, talking about the children, that they would be better off to have a millstone tied around their neck and be thrown into the deepest part of the ocean than they had come and deal with me. So the Lord has the same view on that. But I want to know all the facts of this because I want to know why that judge said she was just as much in control of the situation as he was. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to be lenient on any person who would do something like this to a child in any way, but I just want to know more facts about it because I have a hard time believing that a judge would just let a guy off for 30 days or that the prosecution would even strike the deal that they struck in the very beginning of the case, because everybody knows that a child abuse case is going to be the easiest one to prosecute regardless of who the jury is. So I want to know more facts about it. See if you can find out what's going on, Don.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for the call. I do have another story for you here. Let's see. I think we might have another call. News Talk 1270, you're on the air.
Hello.
Hey, thanks for holding.
Yeah, you bet. Yeah, this story is bugging me as well, and I think the guy touched base on it a little bit, that maybe we're not getting all the facts on this. When it comes down to it, we haven't been told his original sentence in any of this, and I was wondering what that might have been. When it comes to the 30 days, it sounds like everything that's been reported is that was his punishment for violating his probation.
Right, and his original, it was given a, I forget the term they used for it, but it was a let's see, but it was a deferred punishment if he went to sex offender treatment. So it was one of those things. If he did his treatment, he wouldn't have had any kind of charges at all.
Yeah, and it's sad. I'd really like to know what his original sentence was. I believe he should have set some real time and done the 15 years for violating his probation now, but for some reason the judge decided to give him some leniency, and it sounds like the 30-day sentence is for violating his probation. And that's just what's kind of got me twisted, is maybe all the facts haven't came in by whoever's reporting this to the local media.
Well, see, and here's what happened. When he was originally arrested, they offered him a deal where they wouldn't prosecute if he did the sex offender treatment. Yep. And when he didn't, complete the treatment, it was not really a probation violation, but it was it allowed them to rebring the charges. I guess he made some kind of deal that they wouldn't press charges if he did this treatment. He didn't do the treatment, so they were allowed to press charges. So it was this is his original punishment.
So essentially what you're telling me is he got no jail time at all for this. The 30 days is coming on for him messing up.
Right.
He got no jail time.
He got no jail time in the beginning, and I mean it is terrible. And I mean, he's got a suspended sentence of 15 years, and so I guess that's his probation. And if he screws up, which he probably will, I mean, people like this don't just all of a sudden get cured. Then he would spend 15 years in prison, but he should be doing it anyway.
Yeah, I agree. And I guess we'll just have to let God weed him out.
Well, let's hope so. Let's hope so. Hey, thanks a lot for the call. We got one more I want to get to before we take a break. News Talk 1270, you're on the air.
Hello there, Don.
Hey, how's it going?
You know, it was a few years ago. I was in California with a friend of mine, and we were at a bar, and he was charged with statutory rape because the girl he picked up at the bar, I think she was 16 years old. She got in on a fake ID or something. For twist fate could have been me in his shoes, but you know, she got with this guy. They got found out, and he had to fight for his life on statutory rape. And it's, you know, you're in a bar where everybody's supposed to be 21.
Yeah. Now, see, in a situation like that, I could deal with some leniency because the guy didn't know, and you know, I could deal with some leniency in a case like that. I'm not completely heartless.
It's like, you know, the call you had a little bit ago, and that's the whole thing. What's statutory and what isn't?
Yeah. I mean, and that would be the difference.
That sounds to me, from what we've heard with the judge and going back and forth, that it probably was a more that she seduced him. I probably get women all over this area here all riled up because, you know, it sounds like she was the one who got everything going forward. Of course, the guy, he was stupid enough to let it go that way. He knew who she was. But, you know, he seems like a bad thing. You know, I feel sorry if the girl went and committed suicide. That's never an answer. But I'm not really sure you can just point at the guy and say, big bad man. You know, maybe he had something, you know. Oh, yeah, hell, let's just call him a bad man because he was. He knew what he was doing.
Yeah, well, and
it's not like I don't think it was a forced situation.
It doesn't sound like that. And I mean that's why I've been saying, I mean, that's the difference between 5 years in prison and 20 years in prison or life in prison. And I mean a couple years in jail would be fine. I mean, in this case, a couple years in prison sounds like it would be an appropriate punishment, you know, along with sex offender registry and all that kind of stuff. But 30 days is just ridiculous.
I know it baffles you.
Yeah, it absolutely does. I hate to cut you off, but I do need to take a break. And I didn't get a chance to get to the second story I have about this judge. This isn't the first time he's done something like this. So I hate to tease it again, but we will get to that when we come back. News Talk 1270 KIML.
No crazy conspiracies, just good local talk. Don Carpenter on News Talk 1270 KIML.
Don Carpenter Show. So, welcome back to the program, and I did want to get this story in. And we've been talking about this judge in Billings that gave a 49-year-old man, raped a 14-year-old girl, and it by the way the story sounds, it doesn't sound like it was a forcible rape. It was a statutory rape, which is still rape. Let's be honest. I understand the distinction. And the way the story is, the guy made a deal. And here's the way the deal would be. They would drop the charges if he completed sex offender treatment. He didn't complete sex offender treatment, so the charge, the case went before the judge for sentencing. So he wasn't ever sentenced to anything in the first place. No probation or anything. So this isn't a probation violation. This is his first sentencing on the case. And the judge gave him 15 years. Okay, sounds right. With all of it but 30 days suspended. So the guy does 30 days in jail for raping a 14-year-old. And, we've had a lot of great calls. And, people are understanding that there's a difference between forcible rape and statutory rape. But most people have been saying that he should be getting a lot more than this. But this isn't the first time for this judge. Last month, the state's Office of the Commissioner of Higher Education criticized Yellowstone County District Judge G. Todd Baugh for dismissing what would have been a woman's 13th conviction for driving under the influence. Yeah, you heard that right. In July, a 55-year-old woman from Billings was facing what would have been her 13th conviction for drunk driving, but struck a plea deal to avoid that outcome. So the prosecuting attorney is also to blame in this one. Actually, they're to blame in the rape case, too. Seems like if you want to get away with crime, you go to Billings. That's well, you know, I mean, I'm sure they don't advertise that in their tourism, but geez. The judge, according to local reports, gave her a 3-year suspended sentence for felony criminal endangerment, so no DUI, 13th DUI. And now she did get a felony conviction, which is, that's nothing to sneeze at. And somebody with 13 DUIs isn't likely to complete 3 years of a suspended sentence without, getting. And what happens if I understand this right, with a suspended sentence, if you screw up, you do the whole thing. I could be wrong about that. I mean, I'm no lawyer, but I've seen a few episodes of Law and Order. The Commissioner of Higher Education said the most shocking thing about the case was the judge's words to this woman. Now remember, so 13th DUI, he gave her a suspended sentence, no time in jail at all. So here's his quote. If you drink and drive and kill someone, you'll spend some real time in prison. So in other words, you got to kill someone to go to prison in this guy's courtroom. And look, I mean, I'm not one of these guys that wants to send people to jail for 20 years for having a bag of pot or, ruin somebody's life over their first DUI or something like that. I'm understanding about that kind of stuff. But 13 DUIs, I think it's about time you start spending some real time in jail. But I mean, apparently he's not always this lenient, though. In September of 2011, he sentenced a 26-year-old man to 100 years in prison for raping an 11-year-old boy. He suspended 50 years of a 100-year sentence. So he sentenced the guy to 100 years, suspended 50 of them. Guy likes his suspended sentences. So the 26-year-old man, I mean, he'll be 76 when he gets out, but I don't know. Somebody who rapes an 11-year-old boy probably isn't going to make it 50 years in prison. And in 2012, the judge also sentenced a 23-year-old man to 56 years in prison, with 31 of those suspended for child pornography. So I guess it's a mixed bag with this judge. Maybe he's bipolar or something. I don't know. Let's take our final break. We'll come back and wrap things up, maybe take a couple more calls about this. News Talk 1270 KIML.
For the latest on the show, follow Don on Twitter @TheDonCarpenter. News Talk 1270 KIML. You're listening to Don Carpenter on News Talk 1270 KIML. Call Don right now, 682-1270.
News Talk 1270 KIML, Don Carpenter Show. You know what? We don't have any time for calls, but you know what we're going to do? I wanted to end the show. Well, I wanted to end the show with a coughing fit, I guess. I wanted to end the show with something a little bit nicer.
This was the living room.
Gail Trafton is rummaging through the remains of her South Austin home.
Ceiling pretty much came down in here.
On Sunday afternoon, while the Traftons were at the grocery store, Gail got a call from a next-door neighbor she will never forget.
She said, Miss Gail, your house is on fire. And you're thinking, okay, there's a little fire. And she was like, I got 3 dogs out, knowing that there were 4.
Once the fire was out, Austin firefighters searched the home for the body of the 4th dog, named Peanut.
I've been asking them, just find me his body so that I can take him.
More than 24 hours had passed since the fire and still no sign of Peanut. Trafton began to lose hope.
It was just impossible to believe because we sat across the street and watched our home burn and the flames were shooting stories up in the air.
But by hour 28, an insurance inspector walking through the home came across something that gave everyone a glimmer of hope.
I heard Miss Trafton, "Where are you?" And I said, "I'm in the backyard." And she said, "Would you come to the door?" She was standing there right out in the hall holding him.
They say cats have 9 lives, while this pup has at least 2. The 5-year-old Dotson suffered some smoke inhalation but had no marks, burns, or bruises.
How all these people in the house didn't find him, we'll just never understand.
It's unknown where Peanut spent those 28 hours, but after spending a little more time at the vet...
Hi, Bobby. How you doing?
He came home Tuesday to a family that couldn't be happier to see him alive.
I can't replace my children, I can't replace Peanut, but when we found him, it makes it easier knowing that we've lost everything that we own.
I don't know. I'm always a sucker for the dog and cat stories. I just am. So I figured I'd end the show on a little bit more positive note. So we'll see you guys tomorrow morning. First thing, 6 o'clock sharp. News Talk 1270 KIML. Stay tuned for Rush.
For the latest on the show, follow Don on Twitter @TheDonCarpenter. News Talk 1270 KIML.